All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to session number 4 of day number 2. And there has been so much talk about GPT these days, these months, actually, right? And we've been also experimenting a little bit with it. How do you use it in account-based marketing? How do you use it in sales outreach? How do you use it to personalize your message? So I think this is like going to be extremely relevant for anybody who is in marketing, in sales, who is doing ABM. And today it's also kind of a reveal, right, Alex?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So this audience is going to first hear about it. So we are in the process of launching something called a sales GPT. So yeah, excited about it.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, with that said, yeah, please go ahead. Take it away.
And I would love, first of all, thanks a lot, Alex, for joining us. Before we'll kick it off, it's just the quarter of our full funnel summit. I would love to do a quick check. I know that more than 250 people are listening to us right now. Where you all guys joining us from? Share in the chat, please. I'm just curious to see where all of you are coming from. Yesterday, we had people even from South Korea, New Zealand, Australia, India, Europe, United States. Curious to see where you all guys are joining us from today. Antwerp, London, Spain, California, Bucharest, New Hampshire, Southern France, Minnesota, UK, Bangalore, Ontario, Czech, Chile, South America, Poland, Emirates, Bulgaria. Wow, Malaysia, Las Vegas. Cool. So again, we have people from all across the globe. Really great to see all of you. That being said, I'm just passing microphone to Alex. Super excited about your session.
Pleasure to be here, Andre and Vlad. Hello, everyone. And today we're going to talk about how to drive pipeline using ChatGPT. And so let's make sure that all of us are on the same page in terms of terms, right? So when we refer to sales pipeline today, this refers to the process of identifying and nurturing potential customers or leads through various stages of the revenue funnel, from initial contact all the way to closing a sale, right? So that's what we refer to today as pipeline. And when it comes to ChatGPT, we need, I think there's about 200 plus audience, and let's make sure all of us are on the same page in terms of what it is. And there's a lot of different definitions of what ChatGPT is. And this is a simple definition, and it's evolving, right? Every month there's new features added, and the definition gets outdated as well. But for most of the models that were released till ChatGPT 3.5, you could say that it's an AI language model that generates human-like responses in a conversational setting, right? Now, this is all changing. March they released GPT-4, and which is very exciting because it's not just printing text, that it's similar to text that it's already seen before, but it's actually doing much more, and we'll look at what that is. So in terms of the model evolution, you should go back about 5 years. GPT-1 was, in 2018, it had about 100 million plus parameters in it. It was trained on a corpus of books. Then we had in 2019 GPT-2, which had 1.5 billion parameters in it. And come 2020, we had GPT-3, which the initial version of that model published. And things really became exciting, and it took off in in November 2022 when GPT 3.5 was launched. And it's actually a much more refined version of GPT 3. And what it made possible is for something called as ChatGPT to come in place, and it became more human-like in terms of the responses that it generates. And suddenly there were use cases which became useful. And within 2 months, we had 100 million plus users using ChatGPT. And now that's the fastest that any product has grown in a 2 month time frame. And you will also see that the evolution is going at a faster pace. Within 3 to 4 months, we now have GPT-4, which has over 1 trillion parameters. And there is also plugin integrations that it's published. So what GPT-4 has done is it's made it, there's a much more larger body of learning that it can fall back on. So the responses are deeper, it's more realistic. And there's also the plugin integration, which we look at. So now you have, about 10, there's about 10 plugins that's already published. So it's able to not just talk to humans, but it's talking to these external systems, which is very important to understand. So earlier, it didn't have a database of facts that it could look at, right? So a model was static. You had trained it, let's say, up to 2021. So it was looking at information that was, that it's trained upon, right, to create new text. So the problem with that was that, while for certain tasks it's good, for certain tasks it becomes, factually, not accurate. So its integration with something like a Wolfram Alpha, which is a compute engine, is very powerful. So, for example, now if you were to ask, where is this is in GPT-4. If you were to ask, like, where is the space station in sky, from New York, it's able to look for the fact and compute that fact and fetch that from Wolfram Alpha, which is another system, right, which is a compute engine, and then come back with a response to that. So it's not just so it's creating content, it's creating graphs on the fly from an external system. So it's the same with all the other plugins that's there, and the number of plugins is rapidly growing as well. So if we go back to the definition of what ChatGPT was, right, we said it makes human-like responses, but then it's also now starting to talk to other systems to make that response more meaningful, more current. There's an integration with Bing, the search engine, so it's able to look at the latest search results and not just be stuck at 2021, right? So there is a set of models that's being released over time. So if I just go back here to the evolution. So right now, most of us use 3.5, but then there is early access available to GPT-4, which is going to take this to a whole new level completely as well, in terms of what's possible with it, in terms of the quality of the content that comes from it. So we now talked briefly about what ChatGPT is, what plugins are. We looked at an example of Wolfram. And now it's important to understand what a prompt is, because that's a fundamental item of how you interact with ChatGPT, right? So it's a command or an action or a sentence used to communicate with ChatGPT, and there's 100 million people already using this. And you as a marketer, you and I, as a founder of a company or a marketer, we need to get better at this. We need to understand how to get the best out of this. And the key thing here is to look at we have about 10 best practices that I've listed. So let me just stop sharing here and share my screen for a second. I might need a help to share my desktop. Let's see.
Yeah, so just below you have where you can mute
The share button?
yourself. Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I think now I can share. Okay, so cool. Screen visible. So we need to
Yes.
go back, to spreadsheet as well as, to the PowerPoint. So these are the 10, when you create a prompt, these are 10 tips that you need to look at. So the first one is about starting with an action word. So an example of an action word is, like write. So I've just listed here some action words. So it's like create, write, make is an example of an action word. Can you do something is not an action word, right? So if you were to write something like this, we can actually, and this is a playground that you could use, right? So you could do this in spreadsheet. So we could actually say C2, right? So this is C2. So it's actually GPT is going to use that prompt and give us a phrase. So here's the content that it's given. So we put a prompt, write a LinkedIn post about ChatGPT, and here you have the answer from ChatGPT, right? Now let's look at the next best practice tip. It's about providing context. So here's a prompt where you're not just saying write LinkedIn post, you're saying, I'm a marketer looking to write LinkedIn post about ChatGPT use cases for marketing, right? So you've given more color to what you wanted. So let's look at how does the response change when you do this, right? So there you go. So here you have the response from ChatGPT. So you see that it's already personalized. It's saying, as a marketer, this is what the benefits that ChatGPT can provide. So now we looked at. So I'm just going to disable these two, and come back here. So we looked at how what happens when you provide context. Let's look at an example of providing role play, right? So here you're looking for advice. And you're saying, you're a SaaS veteran product marketer who's got 10-year experience in enterprise SaaS companies, and you would like advice on how to create a series of LinkedIn posts, right? So again, it's the same way. You write the formula just like in Excel, and you get this, right? So here you have the response coming personalized based on that. Now, references. This is where you kind of tell, in what style do you want the response. So for example, if I were to paste this here, so I think I have the wrong formula here. So the cell is C5. So I have got C3 here. Let me just fix this for a moment. So while that loads up, we can go through other options. So this is a quirky style. So it says ChatGPT is like a genie in a bottle, but instead of granting wishes, it's a magical chatbot that can answer all your questions, right? So you could ask it to write in a style of Shakespeare, or whichever style you wanted, another celebrity that you wanted. It's possible to use that. When you use double quotes, you're able to emphasize the specific topic that you're interested in. The next tip is to be very specific on prompt. So rather than just being generic, the more detailed your prompt is, your instruction is, the more the quality of input is going to be to your liking, to exactly what you need. You could give examples as well when you prompt. So when you give an example, you say, I want something like this. Here's an example of it, and I'll show you examples of that a bit later. But then your prompt again becomes richer, and the output becomes richer. Another very important thing to mention about is the length of the response. So it's very important to tell ChatGPT, do you want one line, two sentences, 100 words, 3 paragraphs? You need to kind of be able to tell the length of the response. Of course, there is an upper limit on how big that response can be. It depends on the model that you use, but it's very important to kind of tell exactly how big you need. So if you just paste it here, we have ChatGPT write that. You can also tell it what to exclude. So here you go. So this is the 2 sentences that's come. It might be a little difficult to see for you here, but we'll be sharing this. I'll be sharing this with you at the end of the session as well. Vlad and Andre will be sharing it too. You could help it by telling what to include, what to exclude, what to prioritize. So for example, you could say, write a paragraph with 2 sentences about ChatGPT that doesn't use a word but highlights something else, for example, right? You could refine the prompt. This is where you gave an initial instruction, but you want to work on it more. And then, it refines the output based on that input that you get. So that in a nutshell is the 10 tips I would have for you. And I'm sure there's more. You could also kind of tell the tone, which again comes to the style, the reference you talk about here. So you could mention what sort of tone you need. So action word, context, we talked about role play, we talked about reference, style reference, double quotes, being very specific, giving examples. We talked about length of the response. We talked about telling it, being more specific on what to include, exclude, prioritize. And lastly, we talked about refining the prompt. So now let me just come back here to our deck. Okay, so which brings us to, I think, the reveal that Andre was talking about, right? So we are in the process of launching something called a Sales GPT, which is an assistant which actually uses, ChatGPT, and it's for sales and marketing use cases. So it builds on the data that's available on the Salesbox AI platform, and then it personalizes the text and messages so that there is richer text, richer content that ChatGPT can work on, and kind of makes some of this easier for you. And we'll look at how that works. Now, if you wanted to experience this, it's on Messenger right now. It's on. You could go to Messenger and Sales GPT, and when you do that, you should see a Messenger prompt similar to this. Let me just show you here. So yeah, I mean, you would be able to talk to it on Messenger, and you could go back and forth, and there are a set of commands that you could use, and there are additional use cases that we are adding as we go as well. Apart from helping with content use cases, there are use cases which we use Sales GPT for, which is, for example, if somebody shows up on your website, a company, it finds the from the IP address which company is on your website. It then identifies the buying committee members and starts having personalized conversations with them, right? So that's and yeah, it's also a playground for you to to experience ChatGPT as well. It allows you to create content, interact with it, and get your skills better in terms of how best to get output from ChatGPT. So, which takes us to the use cases. We should talk about, I've divided it into outbound and inbound use cases when it comes to how to drive pipeline for yourself. So let's start with some of the outbound use cases. So, for example, social selling. This is to drive awareness. And you should, if you're doing social selling, you already have an archetype for yourself. Example, as a visionary, the expert, the authentic. You would want to decide what you want to be, and you can also ask ChatGPT for suggestions on, hey, I'm a marketer, what do you recommend? What's the top 5 archetypes? So it's good to have an archetype so that your brand is consistent on the platform, and all your content resonates that same archetype. So once you decide, hey, I'm going to be an influencer or a maverick, a thought leader, you could work with ChatGPT to prompt you and get content, specific to that. So it's as simple as saying, we go to Messenger and say, hey, can you create a LinkedIn post on this topic with me being an influencer, right? And then you get that content and you're able to publish that on LinkedIn. So it's very easy to create content like we just saw in the spreadsheet or on Messenger. You could just chat and create that content. The next element of the pipeline in the outbound is data quality, which is very important because I'm sure this was covered in earlier sessions as well. But the input needs to be good for the output to be any good at all, right? So and ChatGPT is very powerful when it comes to this. And I wanted to jump here back to the spreadsheet and then show you how that works. Some examples of that. So let me see if I can make this bigger for you. Okay, so here you have a set of data in this column, and you're telling that this is the clean version of it, and this is the dirty full name. Let's say that you have in your database or an Excel file that you have. So there are some funny characters in it, and you're trying to train ChatGPT to say that, hey, here's how you should be cleaning this. It was doctor, and I want you to remove the doctor. In this case, there is a emoji. I want you to remove that. In this case, there is another emoji in this, and that's the one, right? So in Excel, there's a command that you could use called GPT Fill, and you highlight these values. So let me see if I can copy this and show you. So if you were to paste this here, and you could do that as an exercise. So you need to write equal GPT Fill, and you need to make sure that it's talking the right cells. So what it does is it's going to learn from this and clean this for you. So imagine you had like 100 lines of data to be cleansed, and you gave 3 examples, and you got ChatGPT to clean the rest of the names, right? The same goes with formatting date. You could have formatting numbers. You could get it to format addresses, format currencies. You could get you could use it for tasks where you want to there is text to be formatted. So I've given some examples of it, on how you could cleanse the data. And that goes back to the quality of your pipeline as well as your CRM. So which brings us back to so Vlad, is there a way to jump directly to a specific slide?
Just click on that slide.
Okay, let me just see that. Share. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So we talked about data cleansing, and now we talk about prospecting as a use case. Now this is where you want to it really shines. Given that you have the right data, you can actually make extremely personalized email templates. You could make very specific subject line variations. You could write follow-up templates. You could actually ask ChatGPT for recommendations of placeholders to personalize as well. And again, we have to jump, and you really need to see an example of this. So let me just share my screen back here. Let me see if I can make this. So here is an intro generator, right? So what you have here, the goal is to, given my profile summary, write a prompt so that you get a intro line that you can merge in the email. So here it looked at this prompt. So this is my LinkedIn profile bio, right? So I have here 4 users, and what ChatGPT through this prompt is doing is, it's saying, hey, so the prompt was telling it to look at that profile and find something very interesting, a single line to complement that user, right? That lead. So you're able to generate a very interesting intro line that's personalized based on that person's profile. So here in my case, it said your expertise in marketing automation domain caught my attention. Whereas for someone else, it says, your impressive, your background in computer software industry caught my attention. So it's possible for you to be very creative. You can use this and tune the prompt so that you get the right intro line that you need, right? So similarly, you could also have a footnote. So here's an example of, I have a name, I have a college where this person studied, and the year where they graduated, right? Where they were. So this person was in Harvard from 1992 to 1994. And the prompt was, I was trying to say, can you write a single sentence to someone who studied during that time period about a news about a sports, about their college team, right? So this was the footnote that it created. It said, did you see the news about Harvard winning the world championship in 1992, right? So it was able to find that news article from 1992, which is Harvard related, and create that footnote. But mind you, so that was very exciting for me. But you have to remember that one of the weaknesses of ChatGPT, the model that 3.5, is that when it comes to factual data, it can go wrong. It can write extremely convincing results for you of things which might never have happened. So in this case, that's why I showed this in red. They didn't win this in this time. So the mistake that was done is, was that I tried to use ChatGPT for factual, to get content based on factual data, which happened at a very specific date. So that's at least with 3.5 as a model, that's very risky, or you might get an initial you need to fact check the data that's coming out, right? So how would you change the prompt to do that, right? So maybe we should have prompted it something that's give me something interesting about the college, right? And rather than just about specific time period. So when it comes to time period, it's it might get the data wrong. But this is just to show you that you could have a custom footnote. Another example of a footnote is maybe based on the city that they live in, we want to personalize and say, hey, have you tried this restaurant there? And ChatGPT could get you the name of a restaurant and something unique about that restaurant. So this is just some food for thought. Now this is an example of a news article. So the goal here was that give a PR newswire article. There's a headline, and the you know the prompt to ChatGPT was look at that news article, create an email that refers to it, it complements it, and then pitch about how Salesbox AI is relevant for them, and try and book a meeting, right? So it says, read the press release below titled that name, create an email with 2 short paragraphs that can be sent to Amanda Matthews, complimenting her about about the article, and tell about Salesbox's AI solution, right? And try and book a meeting. So that was the task given. So this was the output that it created, right? So I also said very specifically how I wanted the subject line. So I said the subject line should have a reply. It should have the title of the headline, and there you go. And then you get the message. So this is an example of copy that's extremely personalized for that lead or prospect, and using content that you have. So that's an example of using that. Here's another one where it's looking at a recent LinkedIn post, and it's summarizing it, and it's saying, hey, great job on, I came across this article, great job on promoting the importance of continuous learning. So it kind of reads that, summarizes it, and finds what's the one line that you should refer when you say that in that email, right? So these are some examples, and you can be there's no it's up to how you how creative you are when it comes to this, and how you test things out when it comes to creating that email copy. The next bit is when you use LinkedIn outreach, again the same concepts apply. You can have extremely personalized messages to get that connection request. You can have ChatGPT create the hashtags, call to actions for it. So again, this is another channel, outbound channel, that you could use it for. When it comes to cold calling, again, the script can be personalized, so that it's when you're making that call, you are mentioning the right bit of information that's either from their bio, or it's either from the news like we saw. It's maybe from a recent article that they had published. So it can give you that, it can enable your sales team to have a much more meaningful conversation. It can also give you tips to overcome objections. So yeah, again, we'll be sharing this Excel, and you have Sales GPT, the bot, where you can experiment as well, and and really get better, I would say, at getting what you need from ChatGPT. So being very specific, and it's about it's just about the quality of data and input that you give it, right? Which again comes, if you look at the interest stage, you could have ChatGPT give suggestions for qualifying questions. It could include qualifying questions, one of those questions in that outbound email. It could analyze the response that comes back and gauge the interest level to see, let's say someone says, replies back to that email. You could have ChatGPT analyze that email, look at the sentiment of it, and gauge the interest level. So these are some of the things that we do with Sales GPT on our end. When it comes to decision, the negotiation stage or the decision stage, you can also use it to draft your proposals, create engaging personalized sales content, like what Andre and Vlad always recommends to create, right? So there could be elements and content that could be personalized in those proposals that you send. The messages that you use to educate about your product could be personalized as well. When it comes to negotiation, again, the emails that go back and forth, you could say like, hey, I want you to use this specific tactic, create a message that uses this specific tactic, and then which could help in negotiating, right? So it could use that. It could give you, like, if there's a question, you could ask it, how do I best respond to this, and it could give you the best way to handle that objection. And you can take that deal further. So your salesperson sometimes doesn't have maybe they are new, or maybe they needed some assistance, and it could be it could help them provide that assistance. When it comes to retention, again, it's possible to create personalized follow-up emails. You could use it to create survey questionnaires. You could use it for asking for feedback. You could use it for gathering the customer feedback as well, to improve sales. So this is again for outbound and the retention phase of things. So we touched upon 9 different use cases just in outbound, and now we should look at some inbound use cases. So when it comes to inbound, it comes to the first bit is content marketing. So everything from SEO keyword recommendations to creating your ad copy, to creating buyer-centric articles, blog posts. You need a lead magnet asset, be it you need to create a quiz. All of that is possible. So let me show you here how that looks in. Let me see if I can share my screen. So this sheet will have some content marketing prompts that you should try, definitely. So you could take one of this, and then you could actually post it here, to. So let's say you want something on ABM, and so that's a good way to try things out, right? But here there are some prompts that you could try. If you're more of an Excel person, you like formulas, you could also use some of the formulas that's there. For example, here you have write 5 catchy headlines for a garage, right? And this is the instruction which says strictly under 30 characters, including space. And then you use a magic formula, and here comes the 5 output, right? So it's a productivity hack. So if you are looking to create content, you could use one of these prompts, and you could experiment here and refine it, and then start testing things out. So the combination of this sheet and the messenger bot will help you to try things out, and it will also help you to refine your approach that you want to take with this. I've also put some email marketing prompts that that you could use as part of this. So coming back to the content marketing, so here again, the prompt is all about what you want. You could ask for a specific paragraph, or you could ask for the entire article, and and then refine it, right? So here it's all about how specific you are, and you get content that's probably base material. You want to make sure that you're fact checking it. You still need to do that bit, and then you want to be adding that customization on top of it. So it might be today it's probably a productivity hack that you have, where you start with this base, you look at it, make refinements to that, and get better at prompting ChatGPT to get that content more in your tone, in your style, by giving examples of some of the posts that you've written earlier. And the same goes with images also. So they've just started with images. It's still early days, but it's not far by when you would also get extremely good images, relevant images that you could use. I will definitely share an example of a prompt that you could use for an image as well, some image prompts that you could try out once GPT-4 is available. And which brings us to another inbound use case, which is about chatbot marketing. So this is where you have a chatbot that's powered, that has access to GPT to answer certain questions as well. You could use it to create the script itself. Maybe you want to have refine that chatbot script. So you could say, hey, this is the scenario, this is what I want you to do, what is your recommendation on that flow, and get and see if that's a base material that you want to start working on and refining. So you would definitely want to look at a solution that integrates ChatGPT to respond, as well as gather interest and qualifying prospects. So it brings up to, so I'm just checking here, so we have about 20 minutes, and I wanted to leave some time for questions as well, Andre and Vlad. So looking forward to queries and questions that we have at this point of time.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think this is a very popular topic. We have a bunch of questions, and I would like to get into them. So,
if you don't mind, before we'll start the Q&A part, let me ask you guys, how did you like the session? Did you learn something new? What were your main takeaways? Share with us in the chat, please, your feedback, or keep it simple and just share your favorite emoji. How did you like the session? Share with us, please. Curious to hear your feedback.
Okay, mind blown on outbound use cases, good stuff. Love the examples, very concrete, lots of uses I haven't heard elsewhere. Awesome session, great and practical, awesome. Thank you, Aaron. You have been there. Huge potential, very exciting. It was awesome, amazing. Great emojis, fantastic share, Alex. Cool ideas on inbound side. Love it.
Thank
so
you.
people seem to really enjoy the session. All right. So
quick note. Sorry. Yeah, just wanted to share that Alex mentioned that they are launching the sales GPT, right? And people can request early access. So I dropped a link to their type form. So if you guys are interested, you don't just need to figure out where to find it. Use that link, submit a survey, and then you'll be able to access that.
Perfect. Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
I also wanted to mention before we jump into the question, in case we don't get to address all the questions, we'll share Alex's LinkedIn profile. You can always reach out to him. You can also come to our community, trenches.community, and you can ask questions there as well. But having said all of that, I'm going to go right away and share out the questions. So the first question, and I think you mentioned this, the answer is yes. Can we get access to this sheet? So if I understand, you will share the sheet with us and we can drop it. We have prepared like a content hub with all the different resources, and we can just drop it there. Would that be okay, Alex?
Absolutely, yes. Because I think it's about all of us getting more familiar with it, and it's more about using it. We've all maybe tried one or two prompts, and then left it at that. But it's about us thinking and being. It's going to be pervasive. It's going to be within our Outlook. It's going to be in our Excel sheets everywhere, right? So it's about us thinking all the time, like, how do I make that person, I've got such a talented assistant, how do I utilize that, right? So Excel, the sheet is a great tool, and along with that, the messenger bot should help you get more, spend more time, quality time with ChatGPT, and do amazing things with that.
Awesome. Let's check the next one from Alicia. How did you integrate GPT to your Excel sheet?
Great question, right? So yeah, so I will share that. So there is a plugin which I added. Let me see if I can share my screen, or I can send you that as part of that instruction. So there it's called. Let me see if I can share my screen again here. Yeah, there you go. So let's see here if. Yeah, so there is an extension called GPT for Sheets, which is added. And then you need to add your API key, and then the functions come alive, right? Your Excel, your Google spreadsheet or your Word doc comes alive. You could do the same with Google Doc as well. And this is where you spend a lot of time, right? So maybe when you're creating content, one way could be that you go here, you launch the sidebar, and here's your prompt, right? So you could say write an article, right? So you take a prompt from the sheet, uh, you know so let's say this was what you wanted, right? And then you could plug that in here. And so there are settings that's possible, but then you submit it, and you get that initial draft of content, right? So that's how you would do on Word. So each of us has a different preference. There are Excel people, there are people who think in Word, there are people who like the chatbot interface, right? So and some of us need to be able to switch from one to the other, and then put all of that in a PPT, right? So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I think that this question is kind of an answer, but just to make sure that everybody understands, I presume these Excel commands could work in Google Sheets. This was in fact a Google Sheet, correct?
This was a Google Sheet, yes, yeah. So it's an add-on that you add. There are certain permissions it would ask, that you have to give, so that it can edit, update the sheet, etc. So and then you would use it. Awesome. If you wanted to use it in Google. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's check the next one, and it's coming from Paul. What do you think ChatGPT will be able to do by the end of 2023 that it can't do now?
Great question, right? No, so I think what would happen by 2023 is, that 100 million users is going to become a billion, and we ourselves are going to be much more better at using it. Okay, so it's more than ChatGPT. Being having more parameters, it's going to be us knowing exactly what to do, and there's going to be like lots more. We are going to level up along with ChatGPT, and we're going to be much more productive, and there's going to be a lot of solutions that integrate with it. So ChatGPT is not just going to look at data that is within its model, but it's going to talk to Wolfram, it's going to talk to Salesbox AI, take that data, go into different systems, right? So it's going to be much more a combination of us being more better at it, and it having access to more information and getting us more factual data.
All right. I think this is a very specific question that I think maybe other people are getting the same problem with the API key error.
Okay. You need to go to OpenAI to get the API key and then set the key there, right? So you would need an API key from OpenAI.
You can Google how to get the API key from OpenAPI, and then you can just put it there.
OpenAPI, yeah.
Awesome. Let's check the next one coming from Neil. Let me share this one. I presume this Excel commands.
We covered that. I marked it as answered. Yeah.
Yes. Let's. I see several more questions we need to approve. How do people exactly track AI generated content?
How do people exactly do to track AI generated content? If we copy and paste outputs and make a few, would it be enough to avoid being labeled as AI generated content? Okay. I mean, there are certain tools which, like, how you have Copyscape, there are certain tools which kind of check and tell you. So if you have made edits to it, you could put it in that tool and see what that tool says. That could be one option, right? And see, end of the day, it's about is it fact checked, is it accurate, is there value that you're providing, right? So, and yeah, I mean, you could then check in those other tools to see, hey, what does it say. So it being AI generated content is not the bad part. It's about, is it the right data, is it informative, are you adding that unique spin to it, right? And is it what the topic is about?
Yeah, I think the problem when it with being AI generated could be with Google penalizing your pages and removing your pages from search index. So in that case, you really need to check and maybe also use it more for generating the outline, the ideas, doing some research, etc. And like you said, like doing the final edits yourself. There are other tools that seems to do a little bit better with the final copy when it comes to avoiding this being checked or recognized by Google. But for all the other use cases that you mentioned, that doesn't matter at all. Correct, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a wide application that you have, right? And yeah, in the SEO use case, again, yeah, you might want to be like you said, making sure that that's not the case, you're not being penalized, etc. So it's base material, you have to build on it. So you might get that one paragraph or one bullet points for it, right? That you want to work on and expand on.
All right.
Let's check the next one. Boom, boom, boom. This one is coming from Lexi Hughes. When you are using this series of tips, do you need to include them all in one thread? Will it remember what you have told it in another thread?
Okay, great question, right? So we need to understand which, what are we using? So the question is, like, does it remember, right? Is there memory, and, is there continuity, right? Are you having a multi-turn conversation is what you would have. So if you're doing this on Excel, then your prompt needs to have the previous conversation in it also. So you need to make your prompt in such a way that the context is building, right? This is what I said, this is what you said. When it comes to if you have, yeah, so you need to pass that in your context, then it would know that.
Okay, so I really like this question. It's very concrete about the use case that you mentioned when it comes to personalizing the message on the website.
So this is more a Salesbox AI feature where we look at we resolve the IP address to known companies, and and then go from there to say, okay, look in within our database to say which are the buying committee members that's available that match the persona, and identifying the buying committee members. So we pull in the work summary like I showed you in the sheet and create that extremely personalized first intro line, the footer, and have a message that it's used, right? So if there's like 4 people from the company, so let's say full funnel visits our website, and maybe there is extremely personalized messages that needs to go to Andre and Vlad based on their backgrounds, right? So that's possible. So it's not a ChatGPT feature, I would say. It's more giving ChatGPT the right data and combining it, right? Is what we do.
So Salesbox AI recognizes the account visiting. You also have a database of contacts, or you're integrated with a CRM or something. You have this, so you already have Vlad and Andre in your database. You know something about it. So with all this data, you can give this data to ChatGPT and then actually do the. And is this something that happens completely automatically, or how does it work?
Yeah, once it's set up, yeah, it's automated. Yeah, so it goes in, it enriches the profile with that data. So wherever there's work summary, that intro can be added, right, if it's possible. So if certain records don't have it, yeah, it wouldn't add that line. But yeah, so you have like 1,000 contacts and 1,000 very unique conversations happening.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's check. I see we are covering one question and we get two instead, which is cool. We have 10 more minutes, so I think we can cover a few more questions.
Mhm.
One more is coming from Kim. If we have extra time, can you go back to step number 6, what it was in the outbound use lead gen cases?
Okay, let me just see what was step 6 here. Okay.
Was it this one? Interest.
Okay, yeah. So I think that's interest related. Yeah. So what did you have a question on the slide?
Yeah. So the question was, um,
How do you analyze the interest level? Maybe.
what step seek was in the other one? Maybe just to explain it quickly again.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So, there are different questions that you could use to qualify a lead. Maybe you already have them, but you could ask ChatGPT, "Hey, I'm Salesbox AI. This is what I do. Can you suggest some really good qualifying questions that I could ask? To qualify. Maybe it's pain point related. Maybe it's another angle related that you're asking, right? So it could give you that suggestion and you could refine it. Maybe today you don't ask. Another simple one is, you have a chat bot and you're asking just, are you a customer or not? Right? Are you a customer or are you a prospect? And maybe you want to route it to customer success versus the salesperson, right? So you could do that. You could even have your outbound emails, mention about, usually the question that's put in it is, can we have a meeting? But instead, maybe you could ask a qualifying question and, look for that reply and, have the response analyzed and, kind of gauge the interest level.
A quick follow-up on that. So you mentioned, for example, qualifying questions. Could you, did you ever try, for example, sharing the data about your top customers, letting ChatGPT analyze them and kind of come up with the commonalities that you can then use to define the qualifying questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I haven't tried that, that specific, but it's the good thing is it's very easy to experiment with the Excel and the data. And I would say, like both of you always say, you should always start with a small subset, 50 to 100, um, model it in Excel. Try this out. See how it's coming personalized, test it out, and then look to scale things out. Um, so the input could be a case study that you say, hey, look at this, and or look at commonality and then take from there.
Awesome.
But remember that chat gpt could hallucinate is the word that it says, right? So you need to still bring it, kind of assess, is this, you can't just blindly take it. So there is a parameter, in fact, in the spreadsheet that you can, if you want it to be more creative versus stick to facts, right? um, so it's called temperature. There's a parameter in the Excel that you can adjust. And on one end of it, so if you're like ideating, looking for a logo name, I mean tagline, etc., maybe you want it to go crazy, or maybe for something else, you want it to be very precise. And still even if you ask it to be precise, it can tell you extremely convincing sequence of words which you believe in, right? So you have to take everything with a pinch of salt and make sure that this passes your filter as well.
But as you say
I
as
think
well,
this is the last question. Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just reflecting, like also what you said, like it's just the beginning, and we can expect it to become more factual as it integrates with more tools, etc. One thing that I always did was when I was, getting some insights, and I would say, okay, what is your source for this? You can just ask it
Yeah.
and then check the source and very quickly actually figure out whether it's correct or not.
Yeah. It's
I think there was one more, Andre,
Mhm.
if I may quickly share it out. It's about combining the different prompts. Can you combine them, or would that make the answer more confusing?
So it's like a action reaction, right? So it depends on how clear your prompt is, right? What did you invest, the effort you put in that prompt will definitely help. in making that answer more specific. So if your prompt is confusing, yes, the answer is going to be not uh, what you wanted. But this is again about, by the end of the year, you've done so many of them that you can get it to do a lot of things that you are taking a lot of effort to do today can be so for example, maybe I spent 2 hours to get that intro exactly like how I wanted, but then every intro it works like that, right? So it's about prompting, is about telling what you want, telling what you don't want, etc., right? So it is an
Yeah, but
art, and we humans will get all of us will get better at it, um, and
yeah,
be able
but
to get better
also
outputs.
just going back to the basics that you shared at the beginning in the first sheet of your spreadsheet, you had very clear um, tips on how to build a correct prompt. So I think starting there is already going to be very useful to take, what you said, the back, giving it the background, being specific, saying what not to include, what to include, how long, and all of these things are, I think, already going to make you in the top 10% of prompt writers. So thanks again for sharing that. Yeah, we could, like Kim says, like we could have a whole session on prompts alone. I'm sure maybe we could have the whole day on on it.
Oh yeah, prompts is fun, and yeah, I mean the Excel, and the bot, should make it a pleasurable experience, and you can see, and this is just starting, right? And you will make your own prompts, and yeah, maybe we should have a place where we share all the prompts, all the cool prompts that we make ourselves based on the session. Maybe
Ah, that's a good
we should
idea.
have on the community a page where we have that.
Yeah, if you come up with some good prompts, I like that suggestion, Alex. If you come up with some good prompts,
Cool
come and
prompts,
share them
like
in trenches. If there's a lot
thanks
of
to the
interest
documentation.
around it, we can also create a channel specifically about that, about using ChatGPT in marketing, in sales outreach. I think actually could be a lot of fun. So just come, let us know, and thank you very much. So we are having another quick remark. We really need to wrap it up in a second. So prompt engineering is a huge thing. The sequence in which you ask questions is super important if you want to get great results. Absolutely. So
Absolutely, yeah.
thank
Hmm.
you. Thank you so much again, Alex. This was extremely practical and useful. And I really appreciate that you shared also, the concrete sheet that people can use and your messenger. So very much looking forward to experimenting more with that. Thank you.
My pleasure, yeah.
Okay.